Go.
So we have an optical microscope from Zeiss, and the optical microscope in general we can use it for microfluidics imaging and for thin section imaging. In this video we'll just talk about the thin section imaging. For microfluidics applications there are other people who are more familiar with it. So for thin section, as you probably know, like we cut like a very thin piece of rock and we just put it between two glass slides, and then we try to image this with the optical microscope. We can do this imaging in two modes. One of them we call it transmitted light, and the other one we call reflected light. So transmitted light is light comes from here and you detect it from there, and reflected light is just light that comes from the top and is reflected back. But mainly when we use this microscope, we try to go for the transmitted light. So one thing you need to make sure of is that the light source is not covered when you start, and when you finish you have to put the cover back. So first things first, you will start your microscope from here, and then you will come to your software, Zencore V2.6. And then you will go to free examination tab. So it will try to detect the microscope, and then it will start the calibration. Until then you shouldn't have any sample in here. So your thin section shouldn't be in here until now, until it calibrates and makes sure everything is working, and then you will start adding your thin section. So it will ask you, okay, calibrate now, and it will try to calibrate the stage movement in all directions, Z direction and X and Y. If everything is fine, it should be fine. If it gives you a beeping sound or anything, then you just try to stop the calibration, reboot your system, try again, and hopefully this time it will work. But try not to move anything with your hand. So now the calibration is finished, and you have your camera working. So for our microscope there are several components. This thing has like two openings. This opening is when you look from the eye poles, and this one is when you have, or actually this is for the camera, for the computer, and this one when you look by your eyes. So you can insert it and keep it out in order to see everything on the software, or keep it in order and look from the eye poles. But since we can see everything on the software, we're not going to do that. So let's take it out until it ticks. There is also this thing. It helps you also change the mood. If you want to look here, you will take this off and put this in. If you want to take a look from the software, you will keep it out. So there are also four modes. The first mode is bright field, second mode is pole, third mode is epipole, and black light. I don't remember this one, but generally we use the first three. So the first two modes we use them with transmitted light. So when you see those two buttons, they show you the direction of the light. If the light is coming from below, then this is a transmitted light mode. It's coming from the top, this is a reflected light mode. So with the transmitted light we use the first two modes, and with reflected light we use the third mode. So you just rotate it until the mark comes to the new mode. So this is mode 1, and this is mode 2, and this is mode 3, and so on. So let's keep it now at mode 2. You have here three objectives depending on the resolution you are trying to get. You have a 50x, you have a let's start. We have 10x, we have 5x, 10x, 40 I think. So if we want to change 20x, which is this one, and we have 50x. So let's go now to the 20x. We also have we can move the stage up and down, X and Y. Up and down is not the stage movement, actually it's the camera or the condenser movement. So in order to move it, you see there is a knob here, one on the right and one on the left. You can use any of them to move it up and down. And this one is a focus knob, but if you press this left button, it becomes an XY knob. So if you press the small button in here, let's say like that, then you can move the stage in this direction with the right knob, and in this direction with the left knob. If you press it back, then those knobs became focus knobs one more time. Alright. One last thing to make sure of when you start your imaging, make sure that this is completely to the right. Like if it's completely to the left, you will not be able to see anything. Keep moving it counterclockwise until you can see something. Same for this polarizer. No, actually, okay, no. You can also insert this, we call a polarizer. You can insert it, and it will also, if it's completely to the left, you will not be able to see anything, but on the right you can see something. So this polarizer will help us identify minerals later on for geologists, but for now, let's just keep it out. So first we are going to insert our thin section. So just try to slide it without knocking it away. You just slide it here. And let's take this down. And then you probably will have the live feed on. If it's not on, you just click live and you will have your live feed on. This is a part of our sample. You can change how it looks in several ways. You can insert the polarizer, for instance, and start playing with the colors. But before doing that, you probably need to do some focusing, because it's not that, as you can see, the image is not focused. So you can just use the focus knobs. Now I think it's good. And there's like a coarse focus and fine focus. So the smaller knob is the fine, just to make sure you're in good shape. And then when you insert the polarizer, you can start seeing changing colors based on the mineral. They call it like they check the extension of each mineral, and based on its extension they can figure out which mineral is this. We can also change the mood back to bright field, and you will see now like there is almost no there is almost a change. There is a good change in the color picture, and the polarizer is no longer working. So in order to use it, you have to be in the polarizer mode, or in the second or third mode. So this is for transmitted light. If we want to go back to reflected light, and you probably need to go and also change this one. Yeah, I think this mode is generally, we don't use it, but I think it has other uses for geologists. I can still give you some good images if you change the color of the background. Yeah, and also you can navigate around your sample if you want, just by clicking wherever you go, in addition to moving XY from here, but this way is easier. And if you want to take any snapshot, you just click snap. You don't really need to play with anything here, and then you have your image. If you want to save it, you can save it as you wish, wherever you want. And there's another way to do imaging here, but let's go back to transmitted light and go live again. Okay, so now we are in transmitted light. Focus. The polarizer in. I think the polarizer has probably some dust. This is why you keep seeing those stuff. Okay, let's keep it out. And let's go back to second mode, or yeah. So we can do also a tiled image, and there are like a couple of options for tiles here, but I prefer the tiles manual. So I just click on it, and then you just need to find out the area you are trying to image. If this is a good enough area for you, you can go ahead and start. So let's move this here and see. This is outside the sample, so maybe we need to move the square a little bit to the left, and then move again. Still outside the sample, we need to move more. You can also take a look at your sample and figure out what's happening. So you probably need to go up. I think this is good enough, so you can just click start, and it will start collecting the tiles and stitching them. So first of all, it will collect them in this way, and then when it stitches everything, it will there will be a percentage of overlap, and like as you see here, minimum overlap is 5%, and then it will process all of that and mix them together, and you have only one big picture. Yep. This one is after processing. If you have something like this, I think this is probably because of the piece of dust that we have on the polarizer. But yeah, I think this is it for this microscope. If you want to use any other tiling method, they're also possible, but you just need to start somewhere and extend, and you can also start doing the tiling. And this one may take a longer time, and sometimes if you pick a very large area, if you have to focus in the middle, because the areas on the edge could be less focused, and try to minimize your area so that you don't have the edges of the image out of focus. And I think that's it for the optical microscope. After you finish, just make sure to close the software, turn off the microscope from the same button, bring the cover, put it back on here, and then cover it with the dust cover, which is this one. Cover your microscope with it, and that should be it.